In 2004, Yagira Yuya won the Best Actor award at the Cannes Film Festival for his portrayal of Akira in Nobody Knows. At the time, Yagira was 14. He became not just the first Japanese to win the Best Actor category, but also the youngest. This is a title he still holds to this day. So you can safely say the start of Yagira's career is what some other actors spent their entire career chasing. But 4 short years after his win, Yagira attempted to take his life. His official statement is that he had an argument with his parents, and in a moment of rage, he swallowed a bottle of pills. I'm sure part of that statement is true, but I also believe his early fame played a huge role leading up to his attempt. After his Cannes win, between 2004 and 2008, Yagira had a movie released every year. Shining Boy and Little Randy in 2005, Sugar and Spice in 2006, and The Bandage Club in 2007. In these films, Yagira's acting was definitely not poor, but the audience expected something more from a Cannes-winning actor. The pressure on Yagira was unimaginable. For young talents like him, there's nothing more haunting than failure. In the story of Oblivion Battery, no one knows the curse of failure more than the Kotesashi team. After the boys' first summer season, a journalist stops by for an interview. His name is Sako Junji, and this is what Sako says to the boys. After disappearing for a year, no one remembers you now. People are busy, you know. Little senior heroes are no longer in anyone's memory. Talent and skill will rot if you leave them to soak in lukewarm water. You guys are taking those things for granted. These are definitely harsh comments to say to high school kids, and as you'd expect, the team immediately becomes defensive. They have not worked as hard as they have for a random middle-aged man to come around and patronize them. In response, Commander gave Sako a beautiful rebuttal. But before I talk about that, let me go over the 2 very important points Sako brings up: being forgotten and wasting one's talent. I'm going to first talk about being forgotten. This actually hints at the story's title, Oblivion Battery. The word oblivion can refer to many things in the story, most evidently case amnesia. But it is also about falling into oblivion. When each of our boys entered Kotesashi, they had collectively chosen to leave the spotlight that had followed them thus far in their baseball career behind. This may be easy for Kei, as he had completely forgotten about baseball. But for the others, falling into obscurity would not be easy to cope with. You can even go as far as to say being forgotten means a certain death to their personal identities. You see, being exceptional at a young age often leads kids to wrap their identity entirely around being such. Take Haruka and Kei, for example. They weren't just 2 kids good at baseball. They were the rising baseball stars. Their self-worth, how they understood themselves, and how others perceived them are all tied to their performances. This makes their sense of self extremely fragile. I want to use Kei as an example, but I think I'm overusing him. So let me use Chihaya. Chihaya once prided himself as a hardworking player. He genuinely believed that if he put in enough work, he could become anyone he wanted. But to succeed in any field, hard work alone is insufficient. To quote a line by Haiji from Run with the Wind, and Chihaya eventually became the victim of his own hubris. It took one defeat to destroy Chihaya's entire self-worth. And he realized that if he can't be the best, then he doesn't want to be at all. I think I'm being a bit abstract here, but the point I want to make is being highly successful at a young age can be a curse. If a person has never failed before, how can that person develop the resilience to handle failure? To thrive in the long term, one needs to know how to recover from failure and how to seek help when needed. These are skills Chihaya, Kei, and countless young talents do not possess. I have no doubt putting baseball down was one of the most painful decisions in the boys' lives, but it is also one that was desperately needed. It forces these kids to reconsider who they are outside of baseball before it's too late. I will go over Sako's second point a bit quicker, because I may do a separate video on it, and that is on wasting one's talent. As a baseball reporter, Sako had seen countless rising stars destroy themselves before they even got the chance to shine. So seeing young talents falling into oblivion is not new to him, but he saw something special in Haruka, Kei, Todo, and Chihaya. He knows these boys are destined to live out their baseball careers in the spotlight. So when it comes to the Kotesashi boys, Sako saw himself more as a fan than a reporter. If you take that in, it makes his comment a lot less antagonistic. Sako wants these boys to succeed. So much so that at this instance, his emotions overtook his professionalism. Sako is not so much criticizing the boys for their choices, but mourning why they have chosen to waste their 1 in a million talents in a no-name school. Now let's take a look at Commander's rebuttal. These are his exact words. People will get angry just by speculating. They make up their own ideas about how things will turn out and one-up each other with advice to relieve their stress. How are we going to make it a Koshien? I could answer that question, but I don't feel like talking to someone who's in the mood to berate us. Especially not a middle-aged man who can't make a proper appointment, who dresses shabbily and has no manners. It's impossible to have a constructive conversation. You'd realize Commander doesn't actually respond to the content of Sako's comment. Instead, he is telling Sako, I am so sick of adults like you who think you can just come into our lives and tell us what to do. I can answer your questions, but I'm not going to, because that would be a waste of my time. Now get the fuck out of here. Such a badass reply, right? Not just that, Commander is pointing out a central theme of the story, and that is on the critique of adults. I have made a video on this theme already, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it here. But growing up, Kei had witnessed countless adults trying to insert themselves into Haruka's life because they saw a seed of talent in this young boy. They don't want to take on the responsibility of nurturing Haruka, but they still want to stake their legs into Haruka's business. This way, if Haruka succeeds, these adults can take the credit. And if Haruka fails, they can remove themselves entirely and go on with their days. And it is thanks to these reckless grown-ups that Kei was forced to step up and play the role of adult for Haruka. Now, after all the work Kei had put in, another one of these grown-ups stops by his school and tells him, "You're doing this all wrong." If I were Commander, I'd probably curse Sako until he runs out of Kotesashi crying. I have no doubt Sako came to Kotesashi with the best of intentions. Only a person who genuinely wants Kotesashi to succeed will come all this way just to have 10 short minutes with the boys. But this does not justify how Sako delivered his comment. He basically disrupted the boys' baseball practice, scolded them, and left. Now, let's take a step back and look at Sako's comment objectively. Is he making good points? Yes. Turning down Teitoku, Hikawa, Yome, and other private schools is imprudent on the boys' end. These powerhouses can provide facilities and connections that a public school like Kotesashi never can. But can these schools heal the trauma that these boys have endured? I can't say for sure. But what I am certain of is that Sato, Suzuki, and Tsuchiya are the sweetest and most caring upperclassmen any player can ask for. Coach Sako, despite his goofiness, is a figure these boys trust and can comfortably rely on. It is for these wonderful people at Kotesashi that Todo can come to terms with his eeps, that Chihaya can stop running away from his walls, that Haruka and Kei no longer have to dedicate their entire selves in proving each other's worth. For the first time in the boys' lives, they can play baseball true to themselves. I'm going to end this video where I started, with Yagira Yuya. After his suicide attempt, Yagira got married and removed himself from the media for a number of years. During this time, he worked in izakayas and washed cars. I don't know how often he thought about quitting acting during this time, but what I do know is that when he decided to come back, Yagira delivered some of the best performances I have ever seen. Whether it is Hijikata Toshiro in Gintama, Ashihara Taira in Destruction Babies, and Agawa Daigo in Gannibal, Yagira again and again proved his can win was not just luck. Now, 2 decades after his win, Yagira remained in the spotlight, doing the same thing that he fell in love with as a 12-year-old boy. Hello, Potato here. Thank you all for making it to the end of this video. A couple of things I want to say before I end. The first is please go watch Nobody Knows. Its director, Koreeda Hirokazu, is, in my opinion, one of the best Japanese directors working at the moment. After Nobody Knows, Koreeda directed other masterpieces like Still Walking, Our Little Sister, Shoplifters, and the most recent Monster. When filming Nobody Knows, Koreeda took a documentary-esque approach. So instead of asking the kids to act off a script, Koreeda explained the scenes to each kid and filmed what naturally flowed out of them. This approach requires an insane amount of patience on the director's end, and it heavily relies on the intuition of each kid. It is truly incredible how Koreeda managed to get such exceptional performances out of the young actors. On to the second thing, and that is please go watch Gannibal. I was taken away by Yagira in this series. Something about him in a policeman uniform is just so, What I mean is, Yagira is gorgeous. He's got these beautiful pair of eyes that can tell a story just on their own. I truly think Yakira was born to be an actor. I forgot to mention, but Yakira was the only Japanese to win the Best Actor category at the Cannes until 2023. When Yakusho Koji won for his role of Hirayama in Perfect Days, which brings me to my third point, and that is please go watch Perfect Days. I know this movie has nothing to do with this video, but I just love Perfect Days. I want to talk about it every chance I get. If I have to list 3 of my favorite films in this world, Perfect Days will be one of them. It follows the day-to-day life of a public toilet cleaner in Tokyo, and that's about it. This is definitely not a film for everyone. It is slow and some even call it boring. But if you allow every second of the film to sink in, I guarantee you, it will be one of the most meditative cinematic experiences of your life. Also, Yakusho's performance in the final minutes of the film, Jesus Christ, I can't put into words how beautiful it was. He deserved every last bit of his Cannes win. Okay, a lot of movie talks today, but I just love movies so much. Thank you all again for listening to me ramble. I will see you in the next one. Bye!